Welcome back to Rockin' It Grand. This is Shellie Tomlinson. I am here with Chrys Howard, and we're excited to bring you another interesting conversation that we feel like you are going to love. One of the things that we're doing right now, and we're enjoying the heck out of it, is visiting with our mamas. We want you to know the ladies that raised us and to just understand the people that we come from. We had a conversation last week with my mom, Charlotte Rushing, and today Chrys has brought her mom to the studio. So Chrys, I will let you introduce our very special guest.
I am so excited to have Mom here, and as I said last week, when that Mother's Day is around the corner, so you may not want to do a podcast with your mom, but it might not be a bad idea to sit down with her and do some little interview kind of things and hang on to those words. All of us do that in our family. We love visiting with Mama Jo, and Mama will tell you herself that the grandkids will come over, and it's almost like an interview, right, Mama? Yes. There's so many things they want to know and get out and pick her brain about, but we're happy to have her on the show with us today. And like all of us, we have our mom name and our grandma name, and for Mama it's Mama Jo, but she also has a real name, and her name is Jo Shackelford, and we are honored to have her here with us today. Hey, Mom.
Hi.
And I get to call you Mama Jo too.
I'll take it.
Yes, that's right. That's right. There's so many things that we want to talk about. There's so many questions that we could ask. But first of all, I just want you to tell our people who are listening who you are, because you were who you are before you were Mom and Grandma and Great-Grandma. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you were born, and that kind of thing?
Well, I was born in Louisiana, a small town called Atlanta, which is in the central part of the state. And my parents moved to California at the beginning of World War II. So I was semi-raised in Southern California.
And were you, how old, like 12 at the time when you moved? Do you remember?
I was 12 years old.
12.
Yes. And went to school there, of course, graduated from high school, and was a student at San Diego State when I met my husband, who was my soon-to-be husband, who was a Marine. And we spent 6 years in the Marine Corps. After that, I went through 6 years at Oklahoma State University while he was working toward an engineering degree.
All that time you acquired more children.
All that time we started.
You're leaving out this important element of us.
Well, you were going to get there.
Okay.
She's getting to Chrys.
We started school with 2 children and had 5 when we finished. Now that was a challenge for a young man, and school at the same time.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because, okay, now we've got to start asking questions, and some of this I know, but our viewers have to know. I mean, you were literally going to college 6 years.
Yes.
With 5 children.
Right.
And during those days, the moms didn't work outside the home. You took care of us 5 children. So Daddy worked as well as went to school full time.
He did, and not only that, his mother and his youngest brother lived with us while he was in school at Oklahoma State.
That's right.
So it was a challenging time for us.
And we had this big old giant house, right?
Yeah, we did. we really did.
At that one point we did. Because we were across.
It was in Fraternity Row, right across the street from the Seagalf House, which was interesting. Yeah. Especially for young children to watch on party days.
I guess it was.
I really do. I mean, I was only 4 and 5 years old, but I clearly remember watching big boys throw footballs and stuff. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, they did that too.
Now, Chrys didn't do this when my mom was in, but I'm going to throw a wrinkle into this thing.
Okay.
I want you to tell me where Chrys was in the birth order, and tell us a little bit about Chrys as a little girl. That's what you didn't do. I want to hear this. Tell me a little bit about Chrys.
Chrys was born exactly a year and a day after my first child.
So after my much older sister.
Yes.
Even though it was just a year.
We love that
exactly
right. Yeah.
And she grew up, and my firstborn was like most firstborns. She was a very willful child, and Chrys was not. So Chrys we called her Me Too, because
Way
everything,
before the Me Too movement.
That's
there
right.
was Me
There was
Too.
Me Too.
Okay.
it was Me Too. Whatever her sister wanted to do, then she would say Me Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was a precious child to raise.
Oh, you're so
Yes,
sweet.
well, she
Mom.
was. She was. You
I've
were,
got to call Mama. I don't remember her saying that.
I
on
know.
here.
We're gonna have to.
well, she really was.
Oh, thank you, Mom.
She was an easy child to rear. She was sweet and kind, very shy, very, very shy. This child did not make an oral book report in school until she was in the 5th grade.
Until
Oh,
absolutely
goodness.
She
forced
would
to.
not speak
Yes.
out.
No.
So how did you handle Chrys at that age? Did you encourage her?
Let me say a
I
little
forced
bit.
her.
Yeah, let me say a little bit, because it's like past week we had our mentoring group at our home. It's called Heartfelt, for those of you listening. And we were talking about this very thing because my older sister, Jonelle, literally her nickname was Motor Mouth, and mine
Yes.
was Me Too, because whatever Jonelle said, I just said Me Too.
Yeah.
And someone asked, do you think I was like I was because of how Jonelle was? And I said, no, I think God gives us all different personalities.
Mhm.
And I said, I just had a wonderful mother who was able to deal with those 2 different personalities and 4 more that came along after us. And so, yeah, shed a little light on
because
that.
it's interesting, and it's important to realize that those personalities are different, and they
Yes.
can be strengths. And
Yes.
if you direct them the right way. So how did you do that, Mom?
She did say force a minute
Forcefully.
ago.
Forcefully.
You know, I remember once when Chrys was probably 6 or 7, and after a birthday party, there was a particular gift that a mother had brought for her, and I wanted Chrys to call her and thank her for that, which was so painful for her. And she cried,
Painfully.
but I told her the words to say,
Yeah.
and she did call, and
Yeah.
she did thank her, and it was a learning experience for her, and she did it.
And here I
on.
am today.
And there you
I
are.
can-
Now
I
you're
can
my
do
partner
those.
here at Rocking It Grand.
I can make those
I identify with that
But it's
so,
such a
so
great
well.
lesson for moms out there, you guys, because we do want to be sensitive to our kids, the way they're bent and the way they come to us and their personalities. But at the same time, just as God molds and shapes us, that's our job as parents. And I was a kind of a introspective kid too. I was one of those who was observant. And I watched my mom and dad as they shaped the 6 of us with what they were given. You know, we're not all given exactly what we want our kids to be. We're given these different personalities, and then it's up to us. And Mom you were just so good at that. Did
so
you realize
useful.
that?
No.
You know, this is a question I have for you too. We could go on for like an hour here, but today the big buzzword, not for today, out of the last 20 years has been this intentional parenting. And we talk about it a lot because we do think that it is important to be intentional.
Yes.
But did your generation think that, or were you just, there was, like I say, a lot of our upbringing, you didn't have to be intentional because you learned that when you didn't have enough food, and you learned to share without mom actually
That's
having
right.
to force that issue on. Today we do.
Exactly.
So how did y'all view that? Was there an intentionality, or this was life?
You know, it was because we were intentionally mothers then, that we didn't have an outside job to do. This was our job. And I had a very good mother and learned so much from her. And you might not realize this, but when you were very small is when Dr. Spock came out with a book on how to parent.
Yes.
And it was so contradictory in so many ways to the way my mother did. And I rejected it and followed the guidelines that were given to me by her. And that was very important to me. It was important to me how you looked, how you behaved, how you presented yourself in front of other people, how you always tried to do your best. And those were just basic things that mothers did.
Well, and that's so interesting because Shelley's mom said the same thing, that her
She
mom
did.
said no matter how bad things were in her life, she put her makeup on in the morning and she started her day. And you were really the very same way, and my grandmother was too. And I think that is that generational thing of strength. I think it's. I mean, I think we should look on that as it's strength. It's knowing that whatever's going to face you, you're going to get up and face the day.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And not giving yourself an excuse. You know, and not giving your children an excuse is so important, because I'm thinking of the women that I know now, and Chrys and Jo. And Jo Neal's the older daughter that Mama Jo was talking about. But, you know, you taught her, and you worked with the personality that she had.
Yes.
As, would y'all call her motor mouth? We mean that lovingly. But she now uses that to be such a great counselor and such a great listener. Yes. And then you, at the same time, were molding Chrys into how to speak up. And now she speaks to so many.
Yeah, which was awesome to me.
You could have, that's what I'm saying, is you could have given them excuses.
Yes,
that's right.
I could have.
And she did not. No.
Well, I was not a harsh parent.
No.
But I was a loving parent, because that's how I grew up, in a loving family. And also she had an awesome dad, an absolutely awesome dad.
Yes.
Who was
kind and
sweet.
Loving, and you and Daddy both were firm, though.
Yeah, you required something.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
You really did. And the beds were made in the morning, and Daddy was a Marine, as you said, 6 years in the Marine. Yet he was the softer of the two.
Yeah, he was.
Very much so. But, you know, Mom was a little
bad
bit more
guy.
of the rule enforcer, you know, the beds made.
So often the same.
But but it wasn't that kind of thing that the beds were made where you could bounce a quarter. No, it was the beds were made and your room's straight. It's just take care of things. If you can't take care of these little things, you're not going to be able to take care of things in the future. You know, it's teaching that lesson, I think.
Right.
And Mom was just so good about that.
And watching both of y'all, my mama, as she was in talking to us, and then you, I'm just so struck by your strength, your tenacity. Mom and I didn't get into, Chrys and I didn't discuss a lot of the health issues that she has faced, that she has required her to go ahead, get up, put the face on, and go and do what you want to do, what you need to do. And I see that in you so much. And it reminds me of a story that I'm just going to be selfish, because I wanted to get this into the podcast. So I have found a way to segue into one of my favorite stories. So tell us about the Chinese women and their experience with you.
Yeah. You want to do this?
The setup. I'll do the setup.
Okay.
My daughter Ashley asked Mom to go to Australia a few years ago. How many years ago has it been? Maybe 5?
About 5, 6 years.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to tell you, Mom is almost 91, so she was 86 at the time that she and Ashley took off on this adventure to Australia. And something happened over there that Mom really didn't expect at all. She became the star pupil on the tours over there. So tell us a little bit about that.
Now you take over.
Yeah.
Well, we were in this particular tour that we were in. Most of the group were Chinese women. There were probably 20 or 25 of them, and all different ages, but young enough, much younger than I was. Well, we went on, as part of our tour, we went on to into an area where you had to climb kind of a minor mountain, and I was much taller than all the rest of them. So I was up in front with the guide going up the mountain, and someone in the back, one of the women, complained to part of the men who were with us about it being so far and so hard. And he said, that woman in front is 85 years old. And they were like, what? So from that time on, I had Chinese women following me everywhere I went.
She's a star in China.
And one particularly followed me. She was always there. Every time I'd look around, she was there behind me, smiling and nodding politely. And finally, on the third day, she came to me with a translator. And through the translator, she told me that she wanted me to come to China and talk to Chinese women about growing old, that they didn't have to grow old, because old age is venerated in China. And when you reach a certain age, you don't do anything anymore.
Yeah, right.
You just sit and let people take care of you, which is so dull and boring.
Which so
Mom-
dull and
Mom
boring.
would
If
never
you
do
don't
that.
use it, you lose it. We
No.
know this,
She
right?
doesn't even let us take care of her now, and we're
Yeah.
5 years down the road
So,
on that.
so they wanted me to come to China and speak to people.
So we debated about embarking on that new career for Mom in those days.
decided
In the
it wouldn't pay.
In the end, we decided to leave her in America so she
Yeah.
could just influence the rest
But
of
Chinese
us.
women are on their own. But hey, I got the story in, so I'm
That-
happy.
That is so amazing. Hey, Mom, one thing we didn't talk about with Shelley's mom that is interesting to me is this evolution of being a grandparent, too, and how you see that. I hear so many from your generation speak about how their grandparents were valuable to them, and that many of them lived with them, many of them raised them, while the moms, even though we think about, we live in working times now, but back then, my grandmother worked worked for the war effort, and so your grandmother lived at the house with you during much of that time.
That's right. She did.
And so I think a lot of we're mistaken a lot now, thinking that we have more influence over our grandkids than grandparents of old, because I think now we're more scattered.
Yeah, that's true.
There's something about that we have. I think maybe we're staying in a better physical shape longer. Maybe that is true.
I think that is a part of it. But y'all were very involved, and you are still very involved in your now great grandchildren's lives.
Well, fortunately, I live right smack dab in the middle of them, so they have to go past my house to get to their
We
grandmother.
say she's the gatekeeper. She's at the beginning of the neighborhood, so she's the gatekeeper and the key master of our neighborhood.
But they do drop by my house and bring their children. And it's just a joy when they do that. Of course it is.
But describe your two grandmothers, like in just a few words.
Well, one of my grandmothers always lived with us. My grandmother and grandfather both. And when we moved to California when I was young, they moved with us there.
Yeah.
And my mom, as you said, this was during World War II. My mom started out as a truck driver for the Navy, and women did not drive trucks then, but my mother did.
Yeah.
And when she retired,
This is my heritage, folks.
And now I see some strength.
Now you see.
Yeah, I see the family strength.
and when she retired from the Navy, she retired from painting instruments on airplanes with radium. It was done with gloves through a enclosed case, which was very intricate, way far from truck driving.
So did that grandmother cook your meals?
Oh yes, she did. She cooked our meals. Now when Mom came home, Mom got right in the kitchen and started supper, and I helped her.
Yeah.
And I think I was there anyway.
Yeah.
I did a lot of dishes, but anyway, I remember my grandmother was ill and in bed for about the last couple of years of her life. And when I came home from school in the afternoon, the first thing I did was go back to Grandma's room and sit and tell her about my day. And she wanted to hear it, and that was the precious thing in my life.
And then your daddy's mother, that grandmother.
They were a farm family, and I got to go to the farm and stay for a week or two in the summertime every year. And the holidays, we were always there too. They were a big family. My dad, there were 10 in his family, and all of them just great aunts and uncles. Loved them all, and they loved all of us kids.
So that heritage of just handing down the importance of grandparenting, I think, was handed down to you, which made you such a great grandmother to all of my children. And Daddy's the same. He loved his family and loved his grandchildren so much, and that was that was such a good example for me as my grandchildren, as I started having grandchildren and trying to shape how I wanted them to see me. And
I love the fact that you mentioned that you would go there and she wanted to hear about your day. I just wanted to kind of highlight that, because I had that in my grandmother, and I think that's what we can offer as grandparents. So often, the moms and the dads are in the nuts and bolts of what's going on and trying to get you to basketball practice and tennis lessons and all of that. But when that grandparent can be there to actually listen, I was writing all my grandchildren this week and putting them a letter in the mail because Chrys and I had a fantastic guest on a couple of weeks ago. It just kind of really struck me how important that would be to have some physical, tangible thing from their grandparents. So even though I contact them in other ways, I was writing to them and I said to each of them that I am here for anything you want to talk about, because I had that my grandparent, my dad's mom, couldn't really get around by the time I was, little girl age, and I would get off the bus at her house. And my memory is not that she was kind of almost an invalid and that she didn't leave her house and that she was recluse. None of that. My memory is that she was sitting there beside the window waiting on me to listen to what I had to say.
That is so precious to kids. When Chrys had her children, we lived in Shreveport. And Chris's firstborn child, who is just a wonderful, wonderful person.
That's
was the
Corey,
greatest
by the
kid
way.
ever. Greatest kid ever.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Corey Robertson myself.
She was a great kid.
She used to come to my house. She called me Mama in Shreveport. She would write her letters to me, Mama in Shreveport.
Oh, that's
But
sweet.
anyway, I always said Corey came to my house to crash because things were very busy at Chris's house. They never missed a ball game or a practice or anything else. And Corey would come to my house, stay up all night watching Nick at night, and then sleep all day.
That's it. It's a place to decompress.
That's exactly what she did when she came.
I think that's so special. Yes.
Well, it was special to me.
And now, we'll take the babies my great grands, her great greats, and we go in Mom's back door, and those little babies know exactly where the toys are. They know that Mama Jo's gonna sit in
She's
this
going to be
chair,
here, right?
and Mama's gonna sit here, and we're just gonna visit and play with toys. And there's just something so magical about that.
There's stability in it.
Yes,
Kids thrive
security.
in security and stability.
Yes.
I often tell young moms that kids thrive in routine and
They
things
do.
that they can expect.
do.
And so when they know that Mama Jo's going to be right there and they can expect that and they can know that she's going to have ears for them, there's no value that you can put to that.
I have a precious 2-year-old great-great-grandson who comes, and comes in and he goes directly to the toys, plays with all the toys. He knows the routine. He will ask me to start a car or do something like that. He doesn't speak much, but then he goes to the pantry and he wants his snack.
Yeah.
So we get his snack, and then when he plays a little longer, when he's ready to go, he goes over and he gets to Mama's hand and pulls on it. It's time to go. We've done it all.
But that is
went through the
Everything
steps.
on routine.
Yeah, we went through the
But
routine.
it's building those secure foundation steps.
Absolutely.
It's just amazing. We're about out of time, which we could go on forever.
We
but
could.
one
I'm
thing we
enjoying
talked
it.
to Shelly's mom about, because we joke about this in our family, that you and Daddy spoke in proverb type things to us. How Daddy would say, "If wishes were horses, the beggars would ride," and leave us to figure it out. And I told Charlotte that one of yours was pretty as pretty does, and of course she said that was exactly hers as well. Was there another one? I mean, share with us another one of those type of things that came from your grandmother.
Oh dear, if I could have written all that down,
I know.
but now and spontaneously. Oh, many hands make light work.
There you go.
Right.
That's
There
a
you
good
go.
one.
She spoke in Proverbs.
She
She
spoke.
really did.
I'm thinking it's a generational thing. Chrys brought this up, like you said in our earlier conversation, and my parents and grandparents did the same.
Yeah.
They just spoke in little. It was almost sound bites. We would
It
think of
was.
it as a
It was
sound bite.
exactly No
Exactly.
lengthy lecture. It was just when we would say, "Oh, do we have to clean it?" And Daddy would walk by, "Many hands make light work," or Mama would say, "Many hands," and we were like, "Oh,
Too many cooks spoil the broth.
yeah,
Right.
okay, yeah. Well, I guess we can figure that out." And it really helped us in our thinking too of that we have to figure this out because they're going to just keep saying that to us. They're not going to give us anything else.
They wouldn't elaborate on it, and so you just said, "Okay, what does this mean?" And you were left to figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I love that. Well, one thing we do with everybody, and because our show is called Rockin' It Grand, is we ask them what is something they want to still be rocking in the future, whatever future time that is for you. You've done so many great things, and we take family off the table, we take church, anything off the table, but just anything personally that you have enjoyed doing in your life that you would like to keep doing today. What do you?
Well, I think actually I waited too late to retire to do those things.
Yeah, Mom,
I used to say I'm going to play golf when I retire, or I'm
But
going
you didn't
to
retire
I'm
until
going
you
to
were.
open a taco stand when I retire.
right.
Wait, but you didn't retire until I think I've heard this story. You were 80.
83, 84.
No,
And she retired in 84, then went to Australia the next year. That was her retirement party. Yes.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Well, there are things that I wish that I had time left to do, and I didn't ever get to open my taco stand.
But you've made so many tacos for all of us.
Right,
That
I
is
have,
really did.
and that's
our
really,
favorite night,
that's really
taco night.
So you really did open a taco stand.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
didn't get paid for it.
That's right. I didn't get paid for it, but those are the things that I'm doing now in my life are the things that everybody should wish for, and that's just the love of family surrounding them and the joy of having children there. It's just, that's enough for me.
That's
Yeah.
it.
I'm
right
okay
there.
with that.
That is such a
I
good
love it.
answer.
That's a
And of course,
perfect
that
one.
family life, and I just have to say this, that family life is available and possible because it was grounded in Christ Jesus.
Yes,
Because
indeed.
I know this lady, and that she built that, you and your husband, who I wish I would have known everything I've heard of him, but I wasn't privileged to know your man. But I do know that y'all founded your home on the Lord, and on gathering together with believers, and on doing what's right in God's sight, and that's why you get to reap this type of heritage. So I'm almost crying. I'm gonna let Chris wrap.
No, that's like, I can't even listen to that or I'm going to be
Okay.
crying. Oh, so sweet. Thank you, Mom, so much for being here today.
Thank you for having
Both
me.
of our moms were nervous about being a part of this podcast because this isn't their world, you guys. You know, it's barely our world at the
Barely.
ages that we are. It's the world of all of you young people out there, but this is not their world to get on a podcast and share things about their life. And we talked with, I've got to go a little bit further, we talked with sweet Miss Charlotte about that she was an amazing basketball player and never told them. They didn't know it because your generation didn't throw everything out there like we do today. And there's such greatness and strength in that too. And
There
so
is.
we are just so thankful for our moms and our family. And you know, whenever Mother's Day rolls around next month or 2 months from now, whatever it is, you find your mom and sit down and have a great conversation and go out to lunch and visit with them. Thank you so much for being with us today. You've been listening to Rockin' It Grand, and we are partnered by Christian Parenting Network out of Dallas, and we love everything they do for us. We ask you to subscribe and hit whatever you're supposed to hit and all those buttons. And
Review, pass it on.
all that kind of stuff, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'll stop that, and you can stop.